Good afternoon, everybody. Hey, this is actually kind of new. We're going to be getting into some materials here, but I would like a quick show of hands or quick acknowledgement. How many non-UW-Madison people do we have? I was unaware that we were branching out this year, so that's pretty cool. If you want to show of hands or chat in the drop something in the chat panel, that's very cool. Glad to have you all here, and um, it's great. All right.
Improving skills as a technology instructor.
All right. Well, good morning. I'm sorry, Rebecca. Did you have any?
Oh yeah, no, I was just gonna say, I think you've introduced yourself, so we're at 10:51. Let's get started.
All right. Fantastic. Fantastic. Thank you for.
Cliff, you accidentally muted.
Nope. Yep.
Thanks. I I live to I live to serve as an example for how to manage the technologies. Good morning, everybody. My name is Cliff Cunningham. It is good to be here. Appreciate your taking some time out of your conference. Hope it has been a good experience for you all so far. I've got some time here. I'm sorry, Cliff Cunningham. I work with the Learn at UW-Madison team. Learn at UW-Madison within UW-Madison. Learn at UW is the team that manages all of our in-class training technologies. So if you've ever encountered these or you've had students who have made various comments about them, we are the team that administers and provides the first level of support here on campus for these tools. But we are here today to spend a little bit of time addressing a scenario that I believe has come up in our lives, and it is kind of a maybe an illogical A leads to B dynamic that I think we've all probably seen, right? The idea that we as technologists, we jump into some piece of technology, platform, a coding language, become good at what we do, and then that often will attract the attention of our management, and they will tap us to say, hey, would you like to train the next person or train the group, or hey, would you be available to deliver some material? And give me a second. I'm going to actually, I forgot, I meant to do this. I'm going to close out of my team.
A graphic shows A, you become good at what you do, leads to B, you are tapped to deliver training.
Good deal. So this logic is not really the it's a little bit of a broken down logic here, that this is not exactly the right way that we want to go. We don't always find that just because you're good at something, you're going to necessarily become a trainer. So we want to kind of address that topic and find out about becoming a trainer. And as we get going, I actually wanted to ask a quick poll. I believe Rebecca has crafted a poll, or Elizabeth has crafted a poll for us. Just let me know real quick, how many of you are trainers? Have you already done training? Are you doing a lot of training? Are you brand new to the concept? Is it on your horizon and you're not totally sure what's going on?
Text training you've done. 1, none, very little. 2, a bit. 3, a lot.
Excellent. And the notion being is that, well, of course, as I kind of move between here and the end of the materials, like I just kind of want to know who I'm dealing with. And it does seem like we got a pretty good spread. And I guess this is not totally surprising because I, as an instructor, I would find myself actually being drawn to a class like this as well as if I were brand new and I was trying to pick up some tips. And that's kind of what we're doing today. So thank you for that. If you guys share the results, I'm sorry, that's right. Thank you for sharing the results. So yeah, we got a pretty even distribution.
Text A does not equal B.
And my thinking here is that since these are not necessarily congruous, it's not necessarily fair to say just because you become good at something, you're necessarily going to be good at training. I wanted to spend some time addressing that. And the good news is if you do find yourself on the front end of this and you're not necessarily as good in the training world as you would like, the good news is there's stuff we can do about this. We can pick up on some things here. It is not like so many other traits that you either have it or you don't. There are some pretty clear practices that you can be latching onto, and I hope to present some of that to you today. Now, I want to do just a little bit of self-promotion only for the purpose of justifying my existence here. I have been actually training software since 1992. I was in grad school at Purdue University, and we were doing some what I now look back on and I see as early generation CAD if you've heard the acronym computer-aided design, drafting and design. And I was involved with that very early on, teaching courses, both teaching courses, but then moving into a faculty position. It was actually a faculty tenure track position, actually teaching at one of the satellite campuses for Purdue. So I was teaching software, moved out private sector, kept teaching software, moved to another portion of the private sector into office activities. So I was teaching a lot of the Microsoft Office materials, and then eventually even switched over, spent some time in the medical health records world, the Epic, spent my time at Epic and spent some time working with one of the competitor products, McKesson. So I just seen a lot of materials, and I've probably spent, this is my calculation. I bet I've spent over 9,000 hours in the classroom. And you spend that much time doing anything, and you're going to become a little bit better. So that's my rationale for being here. Is I'm hoping to share some of the things that we've seen. My goals are kind of modest. Just want to discuss the concepts and the issues around this. And I really do, and by that I just mean let's focus on some things we can do better or some things we can improve upon and some things we can avoid, some of the pitfalls we can avoid. And I really do want to say this now, although I know I need to manage this better. It's like I do want this to be a dialogue. We've got what? 19 people in the room. That's a great, very engageable subpopulation. So we don't have 70 people we're fighting. Let's try to get some dialogue going. And with that, well, yeah, let me get this. We got about an hour. I'll try to wrap up 10 minutes early so you can ask any questions, or we can continue discussions that we may have had to move past. I also encourage ask questions throughout if you get it, if you have an itch for something and it seems appropriate for the timing. And I do want to issue a minor caveat that this is actually a bit of a reprisal of something that I delivered in 2022. I like the material. I like the concept. I think I kind of flubbed a little bit that last time, tried to pack too much in, which is one of the classic mistakes. And I ended up blabbering through the entire time. So I want to slow this one down, pick it apart a little bit more, and provide some more opportunity. We cannot cover everything in 1 hour. A lot of the stuff you're going to hear is going to be pretty subjective. It is dependent very much upon you and your personality and what you want out of your training, kind of your training persona. But I do enjoy talking about it. So I've got an email address, I got a phone, and I love coffee. Let me know, and I'll be glad to meet up with you afterwards. So let's go ahead and get into this. So first, an exercise. I'm going to actually drop a URL in to the chat panel. This is a Google Sheet. Finding chat. This is a Google Sheet that I'd like you to take a minute to go and jump in and tell me what are some makes or breaks for training experiences that you've gone through, and that is as a student, as an attendee. What have been some things that happen in the classroom that make you think either, man, this was awesome, or I wish I had that hour back, or that 3 days back, or that $2,500 back? What are some of those things that make or break? And I'm going to actually give you 60 seconds to do this. It looks like this. You can put columns here, and I also left columns that would be a way for you to maybe just give a +1, put a check mark, put an X in there somehow to indicate if you agree with someone else's writing. So I am going to start a timer, 60 seconds, jump in, go. Give me some feedback.
A timer counts down.
And I'm actually not going to look at it while you're jumping in there. I want it to be a surprise. So again, what are some events, some traits, what are some episodes that have made or broken a training experience for you as a student? How do you know that it's a good session? Okay, just a few more seconds.
15 seconds.
And I am going to leave this sheet open for the rest of the session, so if you ever have anything else that comes to mind while we're presenting, feel free to jump in. All right, let's hop on back. All right. Thank you for your engagement there. Appreciate it.
Text, role of an instructor.
Because I have this working philosophy about the training that um, pretty much all training appears to fall upon a spectrum here. A spectrum on the far left, you've got kind of this completely student-led learning. That is going to be your YouTube videos where the student is just acting independent. They are taking their training into their own hands. They're reading manuals. They're digging around. They're asking people for help. They're going to workshops. They're just getting their hands dirty with it. The other extreme on this right-hand side of the spectrum then is the instructor-led learning, which is entirely instructor-based, and it's the instructor lecture. It's a monologue. It's a TED talk. Just TED talks don't typically have much engagement back, right? It's just one-directional delivery of material. And my thought to you is, as you are kind of mapping out or thinking about getting engaged with some training episode, like you got to answer a question about what kind of a training experience you're going for. Where along this spectrum do you want your class to fall? And that's going to be very, again, back to the issue of subjective. This is very subjective, whatever you're going to want out of it. And whatever you want, you need to then prepare the materials to fit that structure. And for me, 99% of the time, I'm falling in this range. I don't want to just talk like I'm doing right now. I don't want to just be a monologuer and engager, but I do want to provide a little bit of control, a little bit of asserting myself, because otherwise they don't need me there. And if if the attendees were planning to go student led, they wouldn't have come to my room in the first place. So you need to strike a balance there about how much control versus how much freedom you're going to be given to the individual students.
Thoughts.
So I just want to stop there and kind of ask your thoughts on that alone. This will be my first question to you. Like, where do you see that playing out when you're developing your materials? What are some of the challenges that you see coming up with that type of assessment of your training event? Or personally, where do you find yourself on that spectrum? Question. And please engage. This is your invitation. And you can either enter it into the chat or you can unmute yourself. That's some. If you've been a trainer, you've already had to answer this question. So I'd be intrigued. Where do you find yourself? Do you agree with me that we're kind of in that space, or do you try for one or the other? Do you try for other locations on that space?
Cliff reads responses.
Okay, and I appreciate that, David. All right, depending on the content, maybe it is more student led. Yeah, and that's a good question. Like, what are those influencing factors? Yeah, very clever observation, Liz. Neurodivergence and just different, and that actually is that is an aspect of the larger question about learning styles. Right? There are some people for whom learning styles can be are going to heavily influence their capacity to respond well to whatever you deliver. It's like if you've got different learning styles, different people will like different kinds of things. Yeah, I have found probably the largest determiner for me is how much time I have. Right? If I've got 3 days, if it's a classroom, you got them for like 6 hours a day for 3 days, you can certainly imagine there's going to be plenty of time. You got to make time for them to be involved in their own activities. Make sure that you give them the exercises, you let them work it out and move forward with the technology. But a lot of my training, and this is maybe part of the hazards of the world that I'm in, is I do a lot of 1 hour training sessions. And there's not when you have a syllabus you're trying to deliver in 1 hour, it's hard for me, I should say. It's going to be hard for me to create a syllabus where there's going to be a lot of student engagement. Just because they come, I'm here to deliver some material and let's go. And that has actually proven to be, I think there's some discussions around that because I think I'm not getting a lot of attendance at some of our training sessions. And I kind of wonder, is it because I'm still trying to force students into my teaching style and it's not fitting their learning style? So So this is good. This is going to be a question you're going to have to answer. So I appreciate the input, but that's kind of the challenge that we'll address a little bit today. That's just the challenge we all face as we're going through the materials. So my thought is, though, if you are going to have a good session is going to have to involve an engaged class. You've got to find a way to engage the students. And again, how much, where along that spectrum, that's part of the variables. But how can we best do that? What is the best way to engage?
Takeaways.
And I do want to zero in my reactions to that, or my responses to that question, by providing for you 3 takeaways. If you want your course to be effective, if you want people walking out of your room glad to have been in your room, you need to, these are 3 things I think that can help you get there. Now, I do want to take a second. I want to actually poke my nose in, see how much response we've gotten. All right.
Shows makes and breaks.
A handout. Excellent. Excellent. Time to practice. Gets back to the issue of if this is going to be a hands-on event or a student-led training. Real-world examples. Engaging trainer. Yep. Hands-on training. That's interesting. Yeah. To make it like having hands-on is very good. Yep. Ooh, that's good. Explaining the why, not just the how or the what. Good. No breaks. Yeah, I'm sorry. Back over to the idea of what can break. Yeah. The old notion that 90 minutes is about as much as you can expect anybody to sit still for. Good. Too quickly. Yep. Oh, that's good. Yep. Not covered or covering stuff that wasn't really mentioned in the material description. Engage with students. Yep. All right, this is good. All right, sorry, I'm taking too long to read it. I'm very engaged. Appreciate the feedback. Please, again, jump in and throw some more items down there. And I'm also mindful that you may think of some things to add to this list based on what is going to happen and transpire in the next remaining 30 minutes. So feel free to put them in there. Feedback is always good, and we're always going to get better. So I'm going to go ahead and focus in on 3 takeaways. And I'm sadly going to focus on 3 takeaways by countering them with 3 common complaints. Complaints that I've gotten over the years. You do a lot of course evaluations, and thank you for coming. Please take a few minutes, tell us how you did or didn't enjoy the experience, and you get this feedback. And I've gotten so much feedback over the years. So I've cobbled together collections that I think are pretty common. So I'm going to kind of focus my takeaways on the common complaints, with the rationale being if you address the complaints, there's a good chance you're going to be delivering a better product, and you'll be getting fewer of those complaints. That's my rationale. So one of the first complaints we get was notion that this course is not what I was expecting. And I actually saw 2 comments in the stuff we already reviewed that addressed this. It was too long or too short. It was too hard. It was too easy. We spent too much time on this. We didn't cover that. Why don't you tell whatever? And this, I think, is a very easy fix. From the beginning, is just making sure, and I'm going to just go ahead and tell you that this is where you come in and you set expectations. Be very clear about what this course is going to do. And there's a couple of ways you could do that, a couple of techniques that are very good. But between course descriptions and setting course objectives, this is very good. Course descriptions, I saw that as specifically identified in that make or break sheet. If you have a good course description, people know what they're coming in for. So there's no misunderstanding about that. Then, once they're in the room, you set up these objectives and you make them available to the students. You print them out. That was actually one of the other comments, is print out the objectives or print out an itinerary that's going to help me mentally walk through this material. I, of course, can't print it out. We've got a different kind of a teaching scenario here, so I can't provide you all with a printed set of objectives, but I can do some stuff to help get there. But that is going to be very good. Course descriptions and objectives serve as kind of roadmaps to the material that you're providing, right? That if you are setting up good course objectives, it gives them an idea of direction. It lets them get a sense of progress as they're going through this. They get to check things off the list. They get to see, okay, at the end of the day, I know this was effective because we've covered these things. And I now, as a new learner, I've just learned these new things. And I can walk away, at the very least, here are the things that I now know. So it's really good. So I encourage you to keep that in mind, develop them, and especially for the longer sessions, if you got multiple days and they're going to be keep coming back, like the course objectives is a great way to reassure them or remind them this is a controlled, intentional event. We are going to move you from here to there, and at the end, you're going to have some extra tools in your belt. So, very good stuff. Encourage it. It standardizes vocabulary. So, which in the world of technology is a big thing, making sure that you're all using the same words, saying the same things. And it is good for you and them, right? It helps, it puts boundaries on what you're going to cover as well. It makes it easier for you to avoid the temptation of being sucked into wide ranging, off topic tangents. So, I also want to emphasize that it's a good idea to share. Of course, you got to share them ahead of time. That's going to be great so again, to help meet with the expectations, but also post these objectives in the room if it's a physical room, or make them visible on your screen and refer to them a lot. You're gonna actually see a little bit of the effect of that, and I'll be asking your input. So like when I come back to this right here, I just say, yes, set expectations. And I kind of want to ask any other thoughts about that. And specifically, or broadly, what about this screen that I'm putting on right now? What does that screen tell you? So what are your thoughts about these setting expectations and um, course objectives?
Text, meta question. What am I doing right here with this slide?
Maybe not the best question, because I realize I violated the rule. I did not provide you with my course objectives, did I? So the course description was maybe a little bit vague, or intentionally vague to sort of hook you in, but I didn't provide a lot of objectives. But what I'm attempting to do with this right here is to just sort of give you my 3 points, and I'm going to kind of walk you through. You're going to see this screen come back a lot with the intent of kind of mapping our progress as we go through. So, and I'm sorry, I do see something in the chat panel. Yeah, that's right. At the end of the day, you're going to be 3 takeaways from this session. So that's great. All right, so the next one we have, the next one I wanted to focus on is going to be a common issue about complaints that that the material is too boring or it's too long, or they kind of begin to ask, hey, you know what? I'd rather just watch a video. And if your students would rather just watch a video, then it's very possible that I'm sorry, if my students would rather watch a video, then it's probably because I have failed to engage them in a way that makes them feel like they're part of an experience here. And this really goes really for right now. I'm beginning to get a little anxious because I don't feel like I'm engaging you all the way I want to. So it makes me wonder, should you guys have just watched my video? Should you have not come, and then I could have delivered this and you could have watched the video at your own pace at some later date? That's part of the challenge that we have. And again, I live to illustrate uh, the the challenges of online instruction. So if you are trying to focus on this notion of having some student engagement, and again, I'm realizing now I'm getting all these warm fuzzies. Yeah, that's fine. That's fine. But if you are leaning towards this direction, and again, this is me showing my bias. This is how I do present. I need to think about engaging. I need to literally think about engaging the attendees. I got to figure that out. It's got to be a priority. If I want the students engaged, I've got to figure that out. And I can even ask you right now, what are some of the best techniques you guys have encountered with engagement? What are some of the best ways to do that?
Text, takeaway 2, engage attendees, make engagement a priority.
What are some of the best engagements that you see or that you maybe employ when you are doing your training? What are some of those techniques? Excellent, Jim. Asking questions. Group discussions. If you're virtual, then a poll is great. Actually, if you don't know, there's like a product called Top Hat, which is one of the learning technologies we use. And part of the purpose of Top Hat is that instructors can take polls in their lecture hall, and it's a great way to technically get that kind of engagement with 600, I'm sorry, 300 students in a lecture hall. So good polls, telling stories. Breakout rooms is wonderful. It's a wonderful way to kind of make the group a little more intimate, a little more challenging with a lot of these things. There is a concern about you got to plan ahead. You got to put the effort in to make sure that thing's structured properly. But that's good. But I do want to acknowledge that this business about engaging, this is a big deal. And this circuit board here is just sort of say, this is kind of where the sausage is made, is like finding ways to engage people is a challenge. And if you are new to the world, again, I don't want to pigeonhole too many people, but if you are a techie, and I consider myself a techie, if you're in the tech world and you spend a lot of time with your technologies, you may not fully appreciate in a classroom when you're trying to train, it's a different world. And creating a dynamic in a scenario where people engage, it takes effort. And you need to be we need to be honing and improving and finding good and bad and finding a way to kind of talk about it so we can get better at it. But it's a tricky thing. So and there are some roadblocks to engaging students. And I wanna what do you guys think are some of the roadblocks that make it hard to engage? In fact, maybe even use a little meta assessment too, of like just right now, what if anything is making it a little more challenging than you might like um, to engage in a cyber room like this.
Sign, roadblocked.
Distractions. That's funny. Did you all notice like all the three first comments were distractions? And I appreciate that. Yeah. That is I think one of the what do you call it? The victims of moving to more remote training is that you're not in the room, so it's a little easier to allow. It's easier for me to be distracted by various things and not seeing facial expressions. Yeah, I get you. I've always marveled at radio personalities, talk show radio personalities, how they can just talk without seeing a face. Like, man, that would just my brain would explode.
He reads chat responses.
Yep, very good. So actually, that's great. What did I see there? Somebody said, oh, sorry. On the flip side, if you're in person, the trainer, yeah, distance from the trainer, yeah, getting stuck in the back, kind of bad audio and that thing. I want you to think about that. So I mean, this is all good, and this is the kind of thing that you need to manage if you're going to be engaging. You gotta move quick to address like the distraction elements. A lot of the engagement, good questions, right? Making sure you ask good questions, not just any old poll question, but like meaningful questions that can kind of really make people think. It seems to be might be a little more effective.
Text impediment.
I wanted you to see this though, because when I went out looking for images for roadblock, I thought I wasn't finding a lot of images that I kind of wanted. So I tried to think, what's another word for roadblock? And I saw the word, and I searched on the word impediment. And I thought this is interesting because sometimes the roadblock is me. I'm trying to overcome a roadblock as an instructor to create the space for you as an individual, but also be mindful that individuals will have their own impediments. And I kind of like the image here that somebody has a ball chained to their foot that is making it hard for them to engage. So yes, the distractions. I didn't see specifically, but did anybody say anything about like just the awkwardness of speaking, right? We've got 18 people here, and do any of you know everybody? Probably not. There's a lot of names here I've never seen before, so I don't know who you are. And if I jump in and try to say something, is it going to be engaging enough? If you're public speaking, yes, that's right. Are people going to think I'm stupid? Was that a stupid answer? Which then also gets, I want to, actually, I think I come up with this a little bit later. I'll hold off on that. But you, as the instructor, will get to kind of manage both the roadblocks and the impediments and kind of take those into consideration when you're developing your materials. So So let's just think about it. Engagement a priority. If you make your engagement a priority and you spend time doing it, well, that's going to be great. That's going to only benefit, that's only going to redound to your benefit. If you can make it a priority, spend time, don't neglect it. Yeah, whatever the question is, there's some kind of an activity, engage them. I typically also like, I have this 10-minute rule that whatever you're hoping to get out of the group, whatever level of engagement you got, I say you got about 10 minutes to make it happen at the very beginning. And kind of think this through, right? That if you come into a room and it is dead quiet, and by room, whether it's physical or in this case, cyber, if it's dead quiet, and then the instructor just introduces and just goes on a 15, 20, 30-minute monologue, think about the impact that it has on you as a listener or as an attendee. In my mind, there is no doubt that that has kind of a, a suppressive effect of just saying, okay, all right, apparently we're not a talking group today, or this instructor is not a talking instructor. So I am when that time passes, there comes a point where it's just like, okay, I've just accepted the fact that I'm in passive reception mode. I'm not going to be engaging. If you try to ask a discussion question after 30 minutes of monologue, it's going to be pretty hard. So keep that in mind. Asking questions throughout, so constantly trying to break that spell. I don't need to do all the talking, is what I'm trying to emphasize here. You try to break that spell, but building kind of a trust and a rapport so that people, if anyone does get the gumption to unmute themselves and say something, that they're going to be relatively confident that it's going to be well received. So you're kind of building this rapport that this is the space I'm looking to build. I'm looking to build a mutually engaged space.
Text, what did I do at the beginning?
All right.
Let's analyze that.
So actually with that, I again a little bit of a meta assessment here. So what did I do at the beginning of the session besides the poll? What did I do right at the beginning? Or it wasn't really at the beginning. It did take me a while to get there, so I got to work on that next time. But I tried to get you into this makes or breaks sheet, right? I tried to get you to put some information in there, and let's take a minute to analyze that. Like, so how did that make you feel? Like, what do you think? What did that do for you? Can you assess yourself to like observe the effect of that? Was it effective? Did it work?
Shows Sigmund Freud. Text, seriously, how did that make you feel?
It's kind of weird, like trying to step out of yourself and hover over yourself and see yourself doing this. Can you assess like the effect of that? Was it effective? Did it get you engaged? Did it make you think?
Cliff reads the chat responses.
Excellent. Well, good point. Thank you for that, Susan. That's right. That those kinds of exercises are kind of like ways of like, in the old days, you might call on a student who's kind of talking or disrupting class. You might call on them to put focus on them because now they have to stop what they're doing and go attend it. So something like this is sort of like, yeah, it's a way of saying, okay, if you're getting distracted, how about we all kind of come back and let's all get and put our brains together. Good. All right. That's great.
Text, one caveat.
So that's the obvious issue, though, or something to be concerned about, or to consider is like how might your your engagement exercises go sideways? Like sometimes they don't pan out the way you want them to, and what might that be? How might that manifest itself? I don't know that I don't think I have slides to this effect, but just you can probably use your own imagination. But it goes on too long. An engagement where the question is a bad question. Oh, I still struggle with that. Like questions that make sense to me, but by the time I form them into words, it kind of falls flat, and I get a lot of people staring at me, going, "So wait, what are you asking?" um, Too complicated of an exercise, for where they are in their learning. That's right. You throw in too much, or you don't provide maybe clear enough instruction, especially for hands-on courses where there may be files and logins, and now the technology is weird and they're not used to it, and it requires a double, something. And then that's right. Yeah, exercises that go on too long or not enough, not long enough. Good. All right. So again, you'll learn, or we all will learn about those things as you go on, as you deliver more training. Now, I also know that one of the challenges, I don't think I capture this anywhere, is that I get the benefit in most of my training, I get the benefit of iteration. I go through the same class a lot. A lot of my courses I am teaching and reteaching multiple times a year, and that gets me to where I can teach a right now I could probably teach 6 or 8 90-minute courses. If you give me 3 minutes of prep time, I could just start, because as you do them more, you kind of learn the valley peaks and the valleys, and you learn when to pause and when to emphasize something. So that's good. You don't often get that with this kind of presentation. I won't get a chance to do this again for maybe another 3 years. So but iteration is good. If you can't iterate, then ask your colleagues, kind of ask them like, what do you think about this question, or get them to throw in their their unencumbered opinions about some of your questions. So good.
Thoughts?
All right. So anything else? Any other last minute extra thoughts or inputs about engaging your learners? Techniques you use, techniques you've abandoned. And actually, I see there, yes, that another potential pitfall, Liz, is tangents. If you have an engagement that some kind of a question or discussion that goes way afield, and now you've spent, you know, 5 minutes of the 50 minutes you have, you hit 5 minutes on something that has nothing to do with your training. That's a lot of that's an unfortunate digression. So, all right, if you have any other, this is also a good if you have future thoughts about good or bad of engaging your learners, then yeah, feel free to jump into that spreadsheet, that makes your break spreadsheet, and go add those. So we'll move on to the next one. The last one is actually, it's a bit deceptive because it's the last one, but I've actually broken it up into a couple of sub points. So I kind of cheated that way. I'm giving you 3, but I'm really kind of giving you 5. So you'll be okay though.
Complaints.
So there's a collection of complaints that haven't really been presented yet, haven't really been hit upon yet, and I did see some of these show up in the discussion earlier about, or in the makes or breaks sheet, that I couldn't hear the instructor. I got trapped in the back of the room, couldn't hear. The instructor was not very engaging, or was kind of droned. And of course, one of the great sin of all sins is reading the slides. You get these slides that are incredibly verbose, and then you just read them. so, um, so there's just a collection there. I didn't really know how else to capture these, but I felt like they kind of played into a um, um, how to categorize these. So, okay, so I've tipped my hand. So I developed a thought, and the thought is based upon. Are you all familiar with this symbol? Is this a recognizable symbol to anyone?
Shows yin yang symbol.
When I think the first time I ever saw this was a tattoo. As a teenager, I saw somebody with this tattoo, and I thought, oh, that's kind of cool. I like lots of circles, and kind of way that I didn't quite appreciate it. But yes, yin and yang. Thank you, Liz. This is the yin. I don't know if it's called yin yang or yin and yang, but it's the black and the white, and it's supposed to represent kind of the, well, this is my understanding, and I want to be very clear right now. I am not a hardcore practitioner of the yin yang world and the ancient Eastern philosophies, but it does spawn from that area. And my understanding, the way Cliff Cunningham has ingested this meta message, is that the yin and yang is supposed to represent two forces that are simultaneously working in concert as either opposing or complementary forces. They're either contributing to each other, or they're in tension with each other, and it's intended, I believe, to sort of as a way of getting you to accept the totality of life, that there are goods and bads, and it often manifest, positive, negative, good, evil, life, death, sun, moon. You see this, you see a variety of, and when you open your eyes, you start seeing a variety of manifestations of this yin and yang. And the notion is that there is two items, neither of which are I'm sorry, at certain times may not be good or bad, but just they work together. And life is better. To me, the take home message is life is better if you accept them both. Balancing, you find a balance. Actually, and I thought about this later. I didn't put it on here, but the, I'm sorry, do it. I think university as a whole, we try to emphasize this notion of a work-life balance, right? That's another one you can put out there, work versus non-work. I go to work, but then I also have my non-work life. So, so the my understanding, my ultimate understanding here is that the better you can accept both of them, the better your life is going to be. So, with that, I would like to present to you Cliff Cunningham's Yin and Yang of Training. And it is really deep. Let me tell you, I'm going to knock your socks off of this. That the yin and yang of training is a balance between content and delivery. And I think you could all kind of imagine, and the beauty of the yin and yang notion is you can kind of tell when you talk it out. If you spend all of your time thinking about one, what happens to the other? If you spend all of your time focusing on the other, what happens to the first? And the notion being is that you gotta find a balance, because focusing on one without the other is just not going to work out, right? What is training? So I'm sorry to elevate some language here. Content being the hard skills of the knowledge, your experience, your book learning. You've got your 10 years of experience. You're a coder. You've learned the names of all the products, and you know how to connect them. And then the delivery being the soft skill, like, okay, I'm now asked to transfer that knowledge from my brain to someone else. I've got to find some way to package this up and deliver it to the other person. If I don't do that well, then that's going to be a problem. It's going to be a problem. And you could ask yourself right now, it wouldn't be a terribly difficult mental exercise of like, what is training that is entirely content? What is that? And I'm not looking for a specific answer, and it's quasi-rhetorical, but what is a training that is just content?
Text, quote, hard skills.
I would say it's not even a book, because even a book is like organized and hopefully written clearly in a way that is just a training session that's just content is going to be hard to absorb, because you're just getting someone's brain dump and they're going to speak it at you. They're going to say something. They're going to, whatever it is, your stuff's going to be flying past you and you're not going to be able to pick up on it much. But if a training is entirely delivery, well, then it's just kind of fluff. It's a concert. I'm going to listen to somebody orate, or it's a stage performance, but even stage performances have content. But for now, we're not going to focus on the content portion in this session. I really want to focus on the delivery, but I want you to kind of take this with you, that it is important to spend time working on delivery. And that, again, is like, that's going to be kind of the devil in the details there about what does that mean. But when you look at these elements, these are all about delivery, all about managing the space. So I want to impress upon you some ways that you can consider improving your delivery. Now I realized too late, I could probably bring that circuit board image and I could insert it here as well, because this too is like, it can be kind of complicated. So we're just going to focus on three things. Sorry. There you go. Three things. We're going to focus on three things, three subcomponents of improving your delivery. And I do want to emphasize that this stuff will take time. So if you decide to go down this journey, you're looking at these items, to the degree I have managed or improved upon any of them, I've been training for 30 years. So like, if you're brand new at it, just give yourself some time and cut yourself some slack.
Text, this stuff takes time.
So first one, I think it's important for you as the instructor to create a warm and a safe and inviting space. If you want people to feel welcome in your room, that is your responsibility. It is no one else's responsibility. You need to be welcoming. You need to create a welcoming space. And here we can stop for a minute and just ask, what does that mean to you? As an attendee, what does it mean for you to generate a safe, warm, inviting space. So I'm going to pull up my chat screen. I'm waiting for brilliance to emanate from your fingertips. What for you manages manufactures a little too clinical, but what for you creates this warm and inviting space? Thank you, Sarah. That's very good. Feeling like it's okay to be wrong.
He reads chat responses.
I got a anecdote about that. Humor, excellent. No wrong answers. That's exactly right. No wrong answers. All right. Since that has now been 2 of the first 4 comments about wrong answers, I will share with you my scarring personal anecdote from when I was a new employee at a company. And I came into a training session, an all staff training session. It was a office of like 30 or 40 people. And they had a speaker there who was delivering some great whatever. And she asked an open ended question. And apparently, she had a very narrow idea of what she wanted as a response from that question. And I provided a response that was apparently out of her circle. And this individual, I kid you not, she laughed out loud and told me, wow, that says more about you than you probably intended. And it's like, I don't get it. It's funny because at the time I was a 35-year-old man, but I still felt like dull. I'm trying to impress my colleagues. I'm trying to fit in with this new culture, and I've now just been laughed at. And for all I know, everybody else in the room thought it was funny too, and they're all laughing at me. It's like, oh my word, talk about not creating a safe space and a warm space and an inviting space to engage. I didn't say anything for the rest of the time. I sat down. I started sipping my coffee, and it was before I had lots of apps on my phone, so I couldn't disappear into a game of Candy Crush. But anyway, so excellent example. Do not, we have to be sure to maintain, kind of protect the individuals who are going to be engaging. So the very first person, thank you for that response. First person was Sarah, feeling like it's okay to be wrong. That is a good answer, right? Providing some encouragement. So it is tricky, and some of you have already said this. Creating a smile, being a smiler, or just somehow letting people know. And I know that smiling is a little unfair because some people that's just not their love language. So that's not how they go. But smile, greet people. I try to do little mic checks for my cyber sessions. If you come in early, I'll kind of speak a little bit to just sort of let you know, hey, we're talking people. That's okay. Are you there? Ask questions, active listening. Handle people gently, and that kind of goes back to my anecdote there, that if they say something that is either wrong or is kind of off, be prepared and watch your reactions so as to not jar them. Humor is always a good thing, right? And I also threw this one in here. So the last item on here is just the learning tactful ways of telling somebody that they are incorrect. So although I know what you mean by no wrong answer, there are times when it is kind of that's not the correct answer, and just finding ways of saying, well, I can see where you got there, but actually what we were looking for is this over here, or yes, I see why you said that. And if we were going to go do X, then that would be great. But actually, what we're trying to do is over here. So yeah, the route would be coming down this way. Finding gentle ways of saying that, getting the conversation back on track. You've taken us kind of down a rabbit hole. Let's all come back to the main road. And even the last one here about finding ways to say I don't know. I don't know. Yeah, that's a great question. That's not on the agenda for the day, so I don't feel terribly guilty not knowing it, but I don't know. That's a good question. I'll circle back and circle back. There's a great modern corporate term. I'll circle back and we'll push the envelope and think outside the box.
Shows a presentation.
If you're doing presentations and some of this stuff, I'm going to actually blow past. I'm watching the time. We're getting near the end and I've still got a little bit more, so I'll try to keep it moving. But there are some items here, general recommendations about using presentations, creating presentations, using them in your training sessions. So is there anything else that came up here? Watching, being vulnerable in the experiences I share. Yeah, good. I appreciate that, David. Yes, as the instructor, you have a lot of power to create the culture that you're wanting to foster. And if you want people to be vulnerable, be vulnerable. Share an embarrassing moment, share a failure, share a time, and you acknowledge, yeah, this can be tough. It happened to me one time when I did X or Y, and that's good. All right. Consider your stagecraft. This is, I feared this might happen because I could spend a lot of time on this, and I will try to get past this quickly, but think about a play and what do you expect in a play, right? You expect clear voice, you expect some kind of eye contact, presence in the room, a good pace, a good steady pace, not lots of rushing or super fast talking. A voice that changes a little bit, a little up, a little down, a little, hey, what do you think about that? Something to just sort of create a bit more of a stage effect, clarity in where this story is going, and a little bit of humor. Um, and if not humor, David, I like your point about vulnerability. If you're not a naturally funny person or you feel self-conscious or you don't want to feel too forced, vulnerability is fine as well. Just showing a little humanity in how you're managing the room. And there's sort of this rationale too that you may not like this, what I'm about to say, but there is a lot of connection between teaching and acting. And it just is. And there's actually an article I discovered, and I'll provide this for you later, or it'll be in the notes, the presentation. But there are some people who have a philosophy that if you're going to be a trainer, some kind of a teacher, go to some improv classes. Go take some acting lessons. Learn about the power of your speech, of eye contact, of hand gestures, about standing and arms crossed versus arms open versus leaning forward versus crouching. There's just so much to be learned about that. And I find it very very engaging. With the warning, of course, that stagecraft has a point of diminishing return. Too much stagecraft and it becomes a little silly and ridiculous. So just watch out for that.
Shows a sloped line.
That's right. Shout out to the improv, the leadership improv team. That's right. And the last one is kind of funny because this is what's going to happen is I'm going to rush through my conclusion, but I'm going to say don't neglect your conclusions. I do this all the time. When I'm rehearsing, I will rehearse the first 80 or 90% of the material and I kind of rehearse it and time it. I'm kind of really chipping away. I'm getting exhausted while I'm doing it. I'm kind of fatiguing myself. But then that means that I do not get to that last 10%. And so it is like a double challenge of mine to not neglect your conclusion. Have a prepared wrap up. Help kind of bring people back down to earth. Have you seen this phrase about when you're delivering some kind of training, tell them what you're going to tell them, then tell them, and then tell them what you told them, kind of thing. Like this is kind of the way that you create a complete and an enclosed training experience. Thank them for attending, and if appropriate, provide some follow-up materials, resources, handouts, and sometimes even an evaluation. So these are all things, and to me, this is this is my idea. So we're about ready to wrap up here. Follow-up materials. Thank you, Daniela. But are there any other suggestions or thoughts that you all have? I'm really ready to just pull this thing down and bring it to a close. Any last thoughts or suggestions or tips or personal anecdotes, good and bad? Anything else you'd like to throw in? Because as I as I step on my question, you guys have every bit as much a right to stand here and to present your ideas as I do. So, whatever you have to offer, now's your time.
Text, go forth and educate.
All right. Well, you guys can go and throw some comments in the chat if you like. But so I just want to remind you. So what we've done, talking about the three primary things, is set your expectations with descriptions and course objectives. Engage your learners. Find some way to do that and practice it and rehearse it and talk it through. And then improve delivery, which again is a beast. And I've broken them down as some items there. Creating the warm space, working on stagecraft, and managing your conclusion. And with that, I think I am done. Thank you all very much. Appreciate your time. I'm going to hang out for a bit. If you guys have any other things you want to, any war stories you want to share, we've got what? We got 5 whole minutes. We got so much time.
Text wrap up Q&A.
And of course, you all
Yes.
are, of course, welcome. Yes.
I'll come off to ask a question. I think anybody else can too.
Sure.
So do you have sometimes I think just different rooms have different feelings when they come in. I don't know. Like the classic example is like, the 7:30 a.m. class. Like people are just tired. Do you have suggestions? Because I also like have been in classes where like the instructor is just trying so hard and I'm like, we're exhausted, man. I guess you have suggestions for like how to kind of push it to like the right level to kind of get that engagement when you kind of have a dead room.
And by dead room, are you talking specifically the physical structure of the room, or are you also
Well,
meaning
it
kind
could
of the
be in a
composition?
virtual, it could be in a virtual situation too,
Gotcha.
where it's just like, oh, I don't think
The
anybody's paying
composition.
attention.
Well,
Yes.
I appreciate the question, and I think if I understand where you're going, it's like the in the same degree that much of this is subjective, you'll need to come to your own balance on this. You'll if you do it enough, you'll kind of learn. But like uh, as far as the room, this room, you all were very engaged digitally, and that's great. You're typing in your chats, but I was really kind of hoping for some unmuted verbal engagement, and I didn't get it, and that's fine. Different. You got to so you just got to roll with it and just realize, okay, as long as I'm doing my part to provide the opportunity, you just got to push past it and say, okay, that's not what we're doing, and at some point I'll speed up, you know, my quiet times that I was ready to engage for some verbal engagement. I'll just have to roll past it. I, I I don't know. Yeah, it is always. I'm always fascinated just by the kind of psychological makeup of people, because if you get the right 1 or 2 people who kind of play off each other, it just like an electric spark. It just changes the whole nature of the room, and with or without them, you just sort of. I don't know. I got nothing more for you, Rebecca. That's really great. And I do appreciate you guys are all very welcome, of course, but I appreciate also the input from the makes and breaks. So feel free to jump in there if you had any other comments, because that will serve as a bit of a guardrail for me as I kind of review some of the material here. So
We do have a question from Liz in the chat that maybe you
mhm.
could answer.
Excellent. Building trainings as a trainer versus building training as a person who has a ton of experience with the subject matter are very different experiences. Yep. How can you bring these 2 experiences and situations and deliveries closer together? Hmm. So, meaning building training content or kind of a training experience when you don't necessarily know the material.
Yes.
And,
So
yeah.
I work with wildlife as a hobby, and I have a ton of experience with wildlife and not a lot of experience as a trainer. But I'm
Mm-hmm.
frequently asked to train people on things like how to deliver subcutaneous fluids, how to gauge the level of dehydration of the wildlife incoming, because I have a lot of experience versus um, sometimes I'm asked to teach people things because I'm older. So my
Oh,
child's
interesting.
class may ask me to come in and talk about having a career in technology, which I actually did not set out to do. I was trained as a technical writer. So when they ask me to come in and talk about how that happens, and it happened to me kind of by accident, it's harder for me to deliver something on that topic than it is for me to just sort of talk extemporaneously about
Yeah. Yeah.
wildlife or
Yeah.
create and pivot a training. If I see I'm losing my audience, I can easily pivot on something that I know inside and out.
Yeah.
Whereas if I'm just talking about something because they ask, I'm familiar with the subject matter and they
Mm-hmm.
ask me to deliver a training, it's harder for me to pivot from this if I see I'm losing people.
Oh my gosh. Yeah. Oh. That's rough. I don't even know. I mean, I have been in some strange scenarios. I mean, my real direct response to you, the best thing I can think of, Liz, is just, be very direct with the person who's enlisting your services, and just tell them, listen, this is not my strong suit. I'll do my best, but when the time comes, you know, there are times that I have like kind of thrown syllabi to the wind and just say, listen, we've got a period of time here. I've lost track of either what I'm supposed to do or I don't feel like I'm delivering. So let's just do the best that we can and kind of map it out on the fly. Actually one of the first training jobs I ever had was teaching software that I would have just gotten 3 days prior. So I'm supposed to like go teach how to use a databasing tool, but I only saw it 3 days ago. And like this was very regimented. Here's the exercises you're supposed to go through, boom, 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 boom. And you walk them through and they're sitting at computers and they repeat it and you just hope everything works out.
I mean,
and
I used to write, the instructions for how to, I mean, as a technical writer, I started out writing instructions on how to use this reverse auction software for this technical company that I worked for. And
yeah.
again, they would come out with improvements and we had to write the instructions on how to use this. And then they would, because we wrote those instructions, they would want us to train on it. But we weren't with the Q&A group. We weren't, I mean, we were just like
Yeah. Yeah.
3 days ago. Here we go.
Mm. Yeah. The fact that I totally hear you and the fact that that ever even happens proves to me that there are some people for whom that would still be sufficient. Like if your boss knows that you're not an expert in X, but they still want you to go train X, it's like, well, okay, I will do what I've been asked to do, and then just try to create the warm, safe environment. Try to engage them, let them ask their questions, and when you don't know, tell them I don't know. And I'm sorry, that's a little bit out of my depth. I'll do my best to research it and get back to you later. But yeah, I you got me there, Liz, because I don't know. I don't know. I'm sure you'll do great. How's that? You're going to do just fine. Yeah, that's tough. Yeah. Yeah, I don't know.
Mhm.
Uh, uh, if you ever want to sit down and like work through a syllabus, we can do that, or we can try to hammer that out. And then you can teach me, and maybe that's another thing. It's like if you're teaching me how the stuff you don't fully know, that's going to help you get better at it. So, all right.
All right, so we are at time.
Oh,
Thank you so much, Cliff, for the presentation. I think we all got a lot from it.